Welcome to the Live Full, Work Fun podcast. This is the show to encourage you to live your life to the fullest and do fun work that fuels your lifestyle. Hi, I'm your host, Gayla Scrivener. Every week, you'll be introduced to amazing guests, useful resources, and inspirational stories. You'll discover opportunities and perspectives to shape your version of living full and working fun. Hi there, and welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here. Now, have you joined the Live Full and Work Fun community yet over there at Facebook? That is a private group that we can share our thoughts, our feelings, inspirations, any challenges when it comes to living full and working fun. Don't be shy. Drop an introduction in there in the feed and let's keep the conversation going. It's a great place to meet new people. Now, if you've tuned in before, you may have heard me mention Visible TV. Right? Back in January, I had founder of Visible TV, Paul Klein, to the show to talk about his brand new streaming channel. And if you haven't caught any episodes or haven't subscribed, well, you should. I'm telling you, you should. I'm not much of a TV watcher because there's just a lot of yuck out there. This streaming channel, though, this is TV worth watching. So if you haven't gone out there, I have nothing to gain on having you subscribe to Visible TV. I just genuinely like what Paul is doing. And, Paul is not the only one that makes up Visible TV. He has a partner named Kendall Johnson. That's the filmmaker. A few weeks ago, Robert and I had an opportunity to attend the launch party of the channel in Nashville, Tennessee, which was really cool. And it was an amazing event. I'll let you in on a little secret, though. Usually, Robert does not like to go to events like that at all, but he enjoyed that one. We got to have conversations with many of the folks that had already, we had already seen their episodes. And so it was great to see them in person and interact, and it was just a great event. But one of the highlights was getting to meet the other half of Visible TV, filmmaker Kendall Johnson. And I was intrigued by his story and was delighted that he is my guest today. Kendall Johnson is the founder of Underdog. He is a Nashville-based filmmaker and composer. Having attended Vancouver Film School and spending time at Remote Control in Los Angeles, the famed studio of Hans Zimmer, Kendall has a knack for captivating audiences with unique video compositions, and cinematic scores. He is a natural-born storyteller and has a passion for telling the unheard stories. Through video and music, Underdog captivates your audience with a creative piece that is compelling. He believes your story is one of a kind, and I've seen it firsthand. Kendall can certainly capture it. Kendall, I am so glad that you're here with me today. I met you in person. Actually, I'd been a fan of yours since seeing the very first Visible TV episode and got so excited about your project. And then I had the opportunity to see you in person and meet you in person. So I am so honored that you're here with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm blessed to be here, grateful to be here. And I was immediately drawn to your husband's epic beard. So it was a great connection right there. So
that's an icebreaker I have found, that going to events that I have my husband be the icebreaker, I guess you can say. People comment on it's either his hat or his beard that people comment about. Yeah. He has become a character. First off, let's kick off our conversation, Kendall, with how about you sharing maybe a fun fact about yourself that wasn't shared in the bio?
So I'm originally from Canada and growing up in the prairies. And while I love hockey, I love playing hockey, had an ice rink in the backyard, but junior high, I was part of the junior high, I think it was just all junior high, badminton championship team. I don't get to play badminton with a lot of people, but I do love a good game of badminton. So
Well, that's a fun fact. I love that. I know this of you, and I was hoping that you could share with everybody. You've recently made a big transition and you moved from, what was it? Was it the Boston area or where was it?
Minnesota. So
Minnesota to Nashville, Tennessee. So what prompted that change?
it was a number of factors. My wife and I'm going to try to not go through the whole long, because it's almost like a long story that gets us to that point. But I used to live in Vancouver, British Columbia, and then Washington State. And my wife went to school out in Washington State in Bellingham. And the goal and this was about 2009. The goal was to always move to Los Angeles because I always wanted to be a film composer. I always wanted to write music for film and stories. I used to be in a band for a number of years, and so writing music's always been a huge part of me. And we were going to move, but it was the whole financial crisis in 2009. And so we're like, well, moving to Los Angeles is probably not a good idea right now. My wife's originally from Minnesota. And so we kind of discussed like, well, maybe we should move back to Minnesota for a bit, get grounded, get some jobs, and we'll just kind of go from there. So then life ended up happening. I grew, my wife grew. We just started going together as a family. Had two kids, Hank and Frank. They are now 8 and 6, and they are fantastic. And so, but within all of that, with all the move, there was always something in me I wanted to move back to Los Angeles. I wanted to do something. I didn't really do anything much in my field of studies like film or music for film when I left school and left Washington State. And so then for me, I just kind of felt this wrestling of like, I want to be able to use my gifts. And then it was about 2016, I felt this pull to work at the church that we were attending. And I asked our pastor, I was like, hey, these are my gifts. This is what I do. Like, do you have any openings or know anything? He's like, well, as a matter of fact, the person who's our tech director is leaving. So I ended up applying, and they actually really wanted an emphasis on film and films and improving their filming. And so I was like, okay, like I'll lean into that. So I ended up working at this church for 6 years until last year before the move. But that really kind of solidified this whole foundation of film and storytelling and just growing and those abilities and finding that I really have a gift for taking people's stories and then just bringing them to life and bringing them to other people so that they impact other people's lives. And I started to come to this kind of 2019, 2020, like I just always wanted to there was the bug of like, I still want to be a film composer, moved to Los Angeles and had an opportunity to be there for a little bit and found that Los Angeles wasn't really a place where I wanted to move to and raise our kids, but I still felt this pull of wanting to do something with my gifts and what can I do? And just through from 2019, 2020, I started to kind of meet other people who were entrepreneurs and stepped out and started their own businesses. And I just kind of said, you know what, I think I could start my own film company and do what I do within the walls of the church, but everywhere. And so that really kind of kickstarted that whole thing. And so 2020, I started laying some of the groundwork of like, what would this look like? What could I do? And just kind of piecing it all together. And then we looked at a few areas to move and whether Minnesota was a place we wanted to stay for the film industry type of thing. So we knew we didn't want to move to Los Angeles, and it was either Washington State, like Seattle area, where I had some friends in Vancouver, or I met some people through the years in Nashville, and some people were talking about Nashville's just becoming a really big hotspot for film and everything else. So I was like, okay, well, we know what Washington's like, so why don't we just head out at Christmas time to Nashville and see what it looks like and meet some people and just go from there. And just felt this really, for me as a Christian guy, I felt this pull and this piece of like, it was scary, but like, hey, I think Nashville's going to be a great spot for us. So ended up quitting my job in April of last year from the church, and I gave them like 4 months notice. But it wasn't just like 2 weeks and I'm out. So I left really well and then just picked up and moved and been here now for almost a year. So
Congratulations on that. For a lot of people, that's a scary thing to just start over. So is Underdog your first time being a business owner?
Yeah, I would say so. Like for a number of years, like I've claimed like self-employment just for side gigs and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so for like last 5 years, like I've been writing music for other projects and other things, but this is my first, like I'm stepping out and I'm intentionally starting a business. And so it was, and still is scary because My wife stays at home. She homeschools our boys. And so me being the sole income provider, it's almost like you have this constant weight on you of just like, oh gosh, like wrestling with all the questions. What if this contract goes through? What if this happens? And you're still just trying to figure it all out still. And so God has been good over the last year, just providing constant gigs and constant contacts and people and relationships. And yeah, but my brain is always constantly thinking about, well, what's next? What's next? What's next?
So owning a film business, creating films, and you do musical scores with it too. You write the
yeah.
music and you tell the story. And Nashville's a hub for that type of business.
Yeah, from what I was talking to a lot of people is like there's a huge like need for just people who do video and do it well. And I was talking to a friend in Minnesota that he was a sound engineer. He's like, you don't move to Nashville to be a sound engineer or a guitarist because he's like, there's tons of those. And so, but what there's a huge need was for if you can do lighting really well and if you can do video really well, like they just need that. And you're starting to see some of that now. Like I think in Hendersonville, they're building a whole sound stage and everything for film. And I think professional like Hollywood stuff they want to start bringing in, kind of like Atlanta, where they do a lot of films there. So that's really cool. That's Nashville's trying to make itself known to be that. I think we've seen over the last few years, a lot of people have moved from California to Texas, Florida, and also Tennessee. So a lot of those people are actually like Hollywood film people that have come, and so with that, you're starting to see some of the fruit from that. So
yeah. What kind of projects do you do?
Some people have introduced me as a videographer, and I always say I'm not a videographer because a videographer just captures video for people, and then just here you go. And so I try to consider myself a filmmaker, where I encompass creating the film, the editing, the music, like the whole kind of process. So I do video storytelling for churches, nonprofits, businesses. I've seemed to have kind of found this niche with the nonprofit world, as interesting as it sounds. I've done stuff for World Vision. I'm doing a documentary for a film for a nonprofit in Minnesota called Take Charge Minnesota, and a bunch of other ones. That interesting thing with nonprofits I found in my little niche is they have the people with unique, powerful stories, and they have the connections to bring that out into the open. And so that tickles my passions and what I love to do because it impacts other people. It's not just this might sound weird. It's not just a video about, oh, here's a cool pair of shoes, or here's our product. And it's like you see some videos on Facebook where people like they're selling stuff, and you're just like, and they're really good videos. And like for me, like I don't knock that at all, but that's not what I want to do. I'm more interested in the story of like how your product has changed people's lives, or how it's made my life better, or how like that you see all like in the coaching business is like, hey, come coaching with me because I can do this. And it's interesting is like when you scroll through websites of coaches and other people, or even read books, like they'll use people in terms of their stories, and they'll be like, oh, like I helped this person, and it's like might be a paragraph, but that paragraph can encompass someone's like decade of their life, and you don't get the full effect of like when they say like, oh, I had no money or had no this, and now I'm making 6 figures a month. It's just like, oh wow, that's really cool, but like you don't know the whole emotion, like everything that's gone behind all that. And so that's essentially what I do. Is I love to take people's stories, just bring them to life. And
I love that. Do you find it hard to be like the name and face of your business when you might like to be behind the camera or behind the scenes composing?
No, because I love meeting people. I love connecting with people. I love building those relationships. And so by being the kind of the face and the behind the scenes, it's like people get like the whole thing. It's just like they get to see the heart and values behind it when they meet me and how I talk to them, and then they see that care and passion that goes into the filming and everything else as well. So I had a friend, who's a coach, and he was one of the first people I met when I came here, was John Michael Morgan, who's an author, speaker, coach, and everything. And all around, I think like he's really like he would say this too. It's just like there's very few people you can meet, and you're just like, I feel like I've known you for decades. Like I feel like I've grown up with you as my brother. And he would say the exact same thing. But like one thing that's really encouraging to me is when I was telling him about what I want to do and my passions, and he's like, I hear a lot of people say those types of things. He's like, but I actually believe you. It's like, I believe you that you have a heart for people and that you have a heart for wanting to tell people's stories. It's not just a sales gimmick or something like that. That kind of goes back to what you were talking about with being the face. Is I think people really get through to their head and their heart that like, oh, this guy actually really cares about our stories and our time. So
with the transition that you've had, moving from up north to down south, there's probably a climate change, but there's more of that. You're building a different lifestyle. Have there been some challenges so far in doing that?
Oh, totally. I think being the husband, father, like especially the family, it's my family's my world, and mentoring my boys and being there for my wife, and so that's been a whole challenge of stepping away from security and trying to figure out this business and this box. Like it's almost like I'm just learning every single day, and I'll make mistakes, and I will continue to make mistakes and keep trying to improve on them. And you hear people say like, just don't make the same mistakes again. I'm pretty sure we all make the same mistake multiple times before we finally get it. I don't think life is built on like, oh, I made that mistake, I'll never make that one again. Depending what it is. If it's I'm learning there with this, and in addition, trying to mentor and be with my family and guide my family and lead my family. And it's stressful for my wife, like picking up, moving. We were in an apartment, and then we picked up and moved again to a house, and so it's just like, and she's trying to figure out homeschooling and routines, and I'm trying to figure out routines. Like we're trying to figure out all of this stuff because we both grew up with parents who didn't have businesses, who worked 9 to 5, who like this was their life. So all of this is new for both of us. You're just trying to figure out as you go each and single day. And so that I would say those have been the biggest challenges. The being on my own type thing feels right. Like it's like as I look back throughout my years, like it's just things I could kind of like that were like conflicts at work and things like that kind of resulted as I look back of like, oh, like I just didn't like having a boss. I wanted to be on my own, and I like being on my own. And so I like making the decisions and owning the decisions and cheering in the good decisions and going, what the heck did I do with the bad decision? Like all of that stuff. I think my biggest challenge in this film world is figuring out the monthly reoccurring stuff. And so it's just like, okay, so what does that look like? It's almost like you're hunting for gigs and hunting for all this, but it's just like, 1 month you might do really well, another month you're like half that, and you're just it's like it's kind of like this and trying to figure it all out. But there's no like, some guys, they have a coaching product they always continually sell. There's something there's always selling, and then it's like I don't have that, or I'm not like I don't have a training course that I would sell. And there's tons of video training courses. You're like, why do I want to do another video training course for film people? You know what I mean? So that's what I'm constantly in the back of my mind of like, so what does that look like? What could I do?
It is stressful. You think it's worth it?
Oh, I totally think it's worth it. Like I look at just things that we've been able to accomplish, a lot of the freedoms, and it's only not even the first year. Like it's like I guess like you could say I'm kind of year 2.5. By the time I made the decision, like, hey, this is what I want to do, and just kind of start laying the groundwork, like middle 2020, 2021, now 2022. And so it's like, it's totally worth it as I see the lives that are affected by the stuff that I've done. They're just like, oh, I was moved by this, or I was touched by this, or it's like, this is really powerful, or those things are what like really keeps me going. I'm like, okay, I'm doing something of purpose and meaning that provides inspiration, encouragement to other people. And so that gets me excited. And so I have bigger ideas and big stuff down the road and everything else. And then from a financial side, it gets me excited. I'm like, oh, like I want to keep working hard so we can pay off all of our debt, get ourselves in a better life position, do this. And then from a mentor side, it's like it's frees me up more time to be able to spend time with my boys and mentor my boys and then date my wife and all that stuff. So
how did Visible TV come about?
Yeah, it was funny. It was Paul Klein. He was one of the first people I met coming to Nashville. We were introduced by a mutual friend. And I don't know if people know him, John Nemo. And so I did video work for John Nemo. And then when I mentioned, hey, John, I'm moving to Nashville, do you know people? And he's like, well, I know. So he introduced me to John Morgan, and Paul Klein was another one. So Paul had me come and do some filming for one event, and then he had some filming that he was doing for his own stuff, September of last year. He's like, hey, I want to hire you to come to Vegas with me and then to Kansas City to film some of this stuff. So I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'm down, I'll come with you. So we're at the airport and we started talking about kind of documentaries. And so for me, it was kind of the pre-production of the documentary I'm working on for the nonprofit in Minnesota. And he started asking me, like, if you could do one thing, for the rest of your life, what would you do? And for me, I really would love to do just like a film a year, documentary a year, something kind of like that just really is big and it impacts a lot of people, and it can just be like a big, nice years thing like that. And so I was talking about all my documentary ideas that I have in my head and all these stories that we could do. And then he started talking about like, oh, it'd be cool to do a story like the Great Resignation, all people who are stepping out, entrepreneurs and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that would be great. Like just capturing all those people's stories of like the fear stepping out and what they've gone through and like all of their stories. So we kind of left it at that, boarded the plane, was in Vegas, filmed and everything else. And then it was on the way back, we were talking in the airport, leaving, and then we started like I still remember Paul's reaction. We were just talking a little bit about like the documentary idea, like, oh, I wonder if we could do that. And then with doing the music for the studio called Transition Studios, they do documentaries and stuff, and so they've done some big ones in the Christian film industry called American Gospel 1 and 2, and so like they have their own streaming platform. So then I started talking about like, oh, it'd be cool if we had like a streaming platform. And then we had people's stories of like, because he keeps talking about all these people he knows, like Dan Miller and Mike Kim. And for me at the time, I had no idea who these people are. But I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to capture their stories and then like film them in like episodes. And then suddenly he kind of got this light bulb. I'm like, well, gosh, like now you have my attention. I'm like, yeah, like I wonder if we could just, all these entrepreneurs that he knows that have powerful stories of how they stepped out. I wonder if we can do that. Like, it's like, what if we just capture all those? And so that's kind of how it all started to kind of froth and birth and give birth. And then, and now here we are.
It is a wonderful streaming channel. You're very talented at what you do. I'm a big fan, and I'm not just saying that.
Okay,
I'm kind of creepy in the way it's like, I'm a fan, I'm following you. But I really like what you do, how you capture the stories, and think it's wonderfully inspiring. We're hearing the stories of those individuals and how you put them together. And you have a different musical score that goes with it, with each person.
Yeah, they all have their own personality. And Dan Miller, I tried to write like a taking care of business, because that's the music that's in his podcast. So I try to do something there. And then, each person has their own something about them that just sparks musical inspiration for me. And so it becomes their personality, their tone and stuff. So, but it's, what's interesting is like, for me, it's like, people are they're the really great storytellers. Like they have gone through their lives, their challenges, and even current challenges, and they know how to express all that. So for me, I don't want to say it's almost easy, but it's just like just tell me your stuff and I'll piece it all together. So a nice little package. The people make it easy on me.
The idea was birthed, what did you say, around October-ish?
September last year, yeah.
September of last year. The official launch was 2022. That was a fast turnaround in launching a whole TV channel. Were there any challenges with that?
Just the amount of content. Like it's Paul's kind of like me, which is a good thing of like he just wants to move, and it's like, hey, like we have this idea, like let's just do it, and let's just get it going. So it's like, all right, let's do it. And so for me, the challenges were just managing like that work and filming with actual other work. Like we're bootstrapping a lot of this, so for me, it's doing all this content, all this filming, and not getting paid for it yet. And same with Paul, like all the work he's doing, not getting paid for this idea that we believe in, of how it's going to impact a lot of people. And so it's doing all that while also realizing, but we still have, bringing money on the other stuff that we do. That was probably the biggest challenge of just trying to do that. But we were able to launch with a lot of episodes. That's a huge relief. And so for me, it's kind of like, okay, now it's out there. Now what's next? Like, how do we get in people's hands, and how do we grow this thing to a point where it just really starts to impact people? So.
You did a truckload of filming and editing and composing and putting it all together before the launch, because you had episodes stacked up. Or do you have a lot of footage that you're still trying to put together?
No, so I edited them all as like right off the bat. So it's just like, so once we filmed them all, then I just went through and basically just did like 2 a week and got them all done. And then right now, Dan Miller, have to finish his today because it's coming out every single week. So, but like I'm still doing my other stuff and then doing this, and so it's kind of that's how that's working. So
The juggling, I'm sure. So the new episodes come out every week, and what's kind of the schedule? You've got the coming soon section.
Yeah, basically it's like that right before the weekend, a new episode comes out. I don't know, everyone's just so unique. Everyone's story is actually almost consistently the same, yet unique to them, if that makes sense. Like it's the same in terms of like I had a job and then I stepped out, and then the fear, and like this is what I was feeling before I wanted to step out. And I feel like I needed to do something. Then I step out, and it's like the challenges and trying to figure it out, and then like the fears that went along with that. And it's like, so like everyone almost just follows the same path, and then like that upward trend of like once they get through a lot of that, and it just skyrockets. And so I think that's what entrepreneurs, especially stepping out, myself included, need to hear, that like especially in those years and moments you're just going like, oh, like what am I doing? Like, am I going to be able to pay this next month? Am I able to pay it 2 months from now, 4 months from now? Am I going to be able what's next? And like all those struggles and all those fears, they need to hear other people go through the same thing. And then the light of the tunnel, the other side of just like, okay, like I can do this, I can figure it out.
These individuals that you're interviewing and you're filming, they are from different parts of the country. So do you fly everywhere? And you mentioned that you are bootstrapping this. That takes a lot of time to go to location. Or
yeah. So the interesting thing, and this would kind of what gave me hope, is that on a few filmings, one in Florida, one in Ohio, like I had other projects. And so we were able to record Shannon Mattern when I was out in Ohio for my documentary. And then I got hired for a gig out in Florida while we were out there. Then we filmed Dan Miller. Aside from that, everyone else actually flew in to Nashville to record at their own expense. So that told me, I'm like, gosh, like these people like actually believe in it. Like they actually like I believe in what you're doing, and I'm going to come and film with you guys. And some of them, like I know David Hancock was here for something else. I think Mike Kim was here for something else as well. But even still, it's just like they're here for something else, and they have busy days. And like instead of just being like, man, I'm pooped, like I got a lot going on. Like they're just like, wow, like this sounds really cool to be a part of, and I want to help. So everyone was always a mindset of like, yes, I want to do this because I want to help you, because I believe it'll help other people. And so that was the consistent message of like, cool, like people don't think we're nuts. All right. So
no, you're not nuts. Like I said, I'm genuinely excited about your project. And are there any other projects that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think for me, some of the stuff I have going on right now, like it's the documentary is it's I am a victim, but the victim's scratched out, and it's Victor, so I'm a victor. With the nonprofit in Minnesota, it's called Take Charge Minnesota. It's really restoring faith, family, and education within the Black community. So the documentary really speaks about post-civil rights from when Martin Luther King was assassinated until today, of how the Black community actually went down 2 different roads. And so the one that Kendall Qualls, who's the head of Take Charge of Minnesota, who's actually running for governor of Minnesota as well, he really believes that it's not about policies, not about things like we don't need policies, we don't need this. Like we need to restore, fathers in the home, faith, family, education, back to when our grandparents and great grandparents, like that's what we need to go back to in order to restore the home and restore the family. And everyone in this documentary say the same thing, that even in spite of racism, in spite of things that were bad back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, the family still flourished. People still did well. People still went to college, even in spite of all of this. And so now with a lot of those things not there anymore, the family is more divided. There's less fathers in the home. So the film is really like a rally cry of like, here's what we need to do to restore that hope.
I love that.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about it. And what makes it unique kind of comes back to the visible TV thing, and then other documentaries I have in my brain going forward, is it's really centered around other people's stories and experiences. I don't need to create my own story, or I don't need to, I don't know if that makes sense. Like it's yes, I'm creating like a big narrative and a big story from all these people's stories, but like it's all them talking. It's all their stories. It's all their experiences, and they all have a similar value goal them together in this film. And so that's the message for other people. Like there's no clever editing. There's no like Michael Moore, like chopping off something right before something that's like, oh, if you would have left that in the film, that could have been important. You know, it's like that completely changes the story. Like I'm not really big in that. Some might say, well, that would make you, might not make you the best editor or director or something. But I'm like, it's someone's story. Like people's stories are important. And so I feel I don't need to manipulate that. I don't need to change it to fit something else I'm trying to do.
As you're saying that, what popped into my mind is like how incredibly talented you are on drawing other people's stories out. Because when you're living your own life or you have this story to tell, most people, what is that saying? It's like you can't see the label when you're in the bottle. They don't really think that they have a story, but you are incredibly talented in drawing that out to where it can help other people. I've seen it in your work with Visible TV, and I see that the I Am Victor, there's a website for that, iamvictor.com. Is that film coming out, or is it already out, or is it coming out soon?
Yeah, so it's iamvictor.com, and so it'll be out April 4th. Which is the day that Martin Luther King was assassinated. So it'll be on Amazon Prime and also available through the website and stuff like that. So there's merchandise and stuff like that. So I've kind of went and created this whole package and this whole thing of a way to support the whole movement. And so
anything from the story that you're capturing for that project, anything that sticks out that was just really touched you, that was meaningful? Because I'm sure when you're drawing stories out of folks that you're affected somehow, you know.
Oh, yeah. No, there's quite a few. When I interviewed Kendall Qualls, like he moved to when he was young, moved to Harlem. They left Kentucky, moved to Harlem. First day there, it's his mom with all of her kids and everything, and they get robbed at gunpoint. And she ends up pleading with the person, saying, please, like, this is all the money I have. These are my kids. Like, this is all I have. And he remembers this guy leaning against the wall, says, lady, that man doesn't care if you have $5 or $10. You better give him all your money. He's like, that's day one. So that impacted me from like where he grew up to where he is now running for governor, and just the mindset of getting it out of a situation that was bad and not looking at situations that we go through and saying, that's really the whole thing of this film. Instead of saying like, I blame other people, other things, or other this, or like blaming something else for my situation. It's because of that, of where I'm in. No, you might, yes, it might be in a situation. We all have situations that we go through, but you can take ownership of wherever you're at in your situation and make it better, make a change, and move forward. So I love that piece of the story. And there's another one. I think two of the guys, Lawrence and Eric, they talk about their great grandfathers. And so like one of them was like grew up in like late 1800s and grew up with this man talking about like how his fathers were slaves and all the stuff that he came through. And so all the challenges that he went through. And in spite of it, he was able to have, 5 kids. And through all that, then like he went to college, and then his sons went to college, and it's like other people in the next generation went to college. And so it's, instead of looking back and saying like I went through these hard times, like they instilled these values and these ethics of family and education and faith that like just were paramount, that helped lead families to where they are today. I look at my own kids and just that generational sin that I've had in my own life, and parents and like all that stuff growing up, with like how to keep making the generations after us better. And so we can change our moments internally. We can change our moments today, make it better, but also we have to look to the future and be like, the things I do today are going to help make them and our world a better place. So
yes, very good lessons. Well, I'm going to kind of wrap up our conversation here. And I like to ask my guests what their favorite resource or book that you've experienced that's really made a difference for you, either professionally or even personally.
So if Paul was listening to this, he would make fun of me because I'm actually not very well read. I do read books, but I should read way more than I possibly should. And so I'm getting it's one of those things I'm getting better at. But the book, John Nemo recommended it, and I've really it's really helped me out, was the Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics. It's really helped me just in terms of looking at things I've grown up with, my mindset today, visualization, like just things that just kind of click with me of like just when I have failures or when I hit adversity and things like that, and the anxiety I feel, just how my brain tries to remember stuff and it's overcoming all that, looking at things through different lenses and being better and all that stuff. So that book has been very helpful for me. And then it might sound cliche, but the Bible. So I read every day. I make a challenge to Christians. I don't think most Christians read the Bible every single day. And I don't mean that in an arrogance thing or putting like, oh, wow, look at me. That's not what I mean. But I believe that, the Bible even says like everything that we need to live a godly life is here in this book. And so I think by reading through it and taking the lessons away, and just there's something that happens. The word is living. So between those, Psycho-Cybernetics, but that's the one that I do read all the time. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, Kendall, it has been so great to have you here, and I've learned so much. And how can everybody stay in contact or connect with you?
Yeah, you can go to my website, underdog.film. And so that's probably the easiest one. For some reason, Instagram and Facebook, I've made complicated tags for myself. But underdog.film.stories for Instagram. But usually my website's easy, underdog.film. Get to see some films I've done. It's been a little bit since I've updated it because of Visible TV, because of the documentary. So once those are kind of behind, I'll go back and add some of those videos in. But yeah, there you get to see stuff I've done, and you get to see work, music about me, and then you can connect with social media from there. So,
well, great, Kendall. It's been a delight. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a blessing.
Well, thanks for being here with me today. Be sure to scroll down to the show notes and grab the links to the projects and resources Kendall mentioned. The trailer to I Am Victor is powerful. You need to go to his website, and actually the links for I Am Victor is right there in the show notes, and you need to just watch it. I am looking forward to seeing the entire documentary. Now let's continue this conversation. Hop over to Facebook and post your biggest takeaway today's show was for you in the Live Full Work Fun group. Now, I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'd love for you to do me this little favor. Please share this episode with one person, just one person who you might find it helpful and enjoyable. You can share it there on social or just text it to them. Well, thanks for listening, and until next time, have a fantastic week. Live full, work fun.